Joy News checks at the Mencha Palace suggests authorities are upset about the latest outburst between the ABUDU and ANDANI gates over the peace process. Now, the ABUDUs are threatening to use force to enter the Gbewa Palace to perform the funeral rites of the late Yana Muhammadu Abdullahi, but the ANDANIs have vowed to resist any such move.
I have noticed that if they start a violent confrontation this time, they will be embarking on a suicide mission.
The Interior Minister, Mark Oyongo, is appealing for calm between the two factions to allow the Committee of Eminent Chiefs to wind up their work.
Feel is that they exercise some restraint to allow the eminent chiefs to conclude their work.
Well, an ally to end chieftaincy violence, according to the Chieftaincy Minister, is in Parliament already.
Allow in the soul and or skin. If the chief passes away, then there is less likelihood of violence.
So, what at all is sparking this chieftaincy violence, especially in the north? The ABUDU and ANDANI conflict has been there for so long. It's become a household name now. What is delaying the peace process? If the threats by the two factions is anything to go by, what is waiting for us as a country, considering how disastrous conflicts of this nature has been over the years? This is today's big story. My name is Aishi Brian. The ANDANI royal family has vowed to protect themselves from any attack from the ABUDU royal family. Now, the ANDANI family says it is ready to engage in another war over the ABUDU's notice to forcibly enter the Gbewa Palace to perform the funeral rites of their late Regent Yana Muhammadu Abdullahi IV. Now, the ABUDU family served the notice last week and indicated that if by Tuesday, January 26, government and the Committee of Eminent Chiefs mediating the peace process fail to grant them access to the palace, they will forcibly enter the palace.
I have noticed that if they start a violent confrontation this time, they will be embarking on a suicide mission. We of the ANDANI family wish to convey to Dr. Nantoma Mama and his extremists killed in the ABUDU royal family. Yeah, we are ready for a confrontation. To this end, we ask the security forces in Yeti to take notice of what is happening. We have come a long way from March 2002. This time, the response of the ANDANI family will be swift, resolute, and right, and in such a manner as to put permanent closure to the intransigent arrogance of this extremist of the ABUDU family, not only in Yeti but throughout the world. In fact, we are stating not all ABUDU families are extremists. Some of them are the truth and they are obedient.
Sources at the Mencha Palace describe the development as unfortunate because it comes at a time when the Committee of Eminent Chiefs gets closer to clinching a deal for lasting peace. Now, Asante Hene Osetu Otumfo the second leads the mediating effort. The ABUDU royal family in the Dagbon Chieftaincy divide served notice to government and the Otumfo Mediation Committee that they will explore other alternative means to occupy the Gbewa Palace to perform the funeral of late Yana Muhammadu Abdullahi IV if they fail to grant them access to the palace by today, January 25th, 2016. We can now listen to the Interior Minister, who feels the two factions must give the Committee of Eminent Chiefs time to complete their work.
It will be recalled that at the weekend, the regional minister for the northern region assured the general public that security was being beefed up at Yendi and other sensitive areas. In fact, the Regional Security Council is monitoring the situation and then will advise government accordingly. In the interim, what the ministry is going to do is to appeal to the eminent chiefs to speed up work on the funeral arrangements and the roadmap for restoring peace to the area. I would also want to use this opportunity to appeal to the two factions to exercise restraint, because I know that the eminent chiefs have gone so far in restoring peace to the area, finding lasting solution to the area. So my appeal is that they exercise some restraint to allow the eminent chiefs to conclude their work. In the interim also, the Regional Security Council will continue to monitor the situation and advise government accordingly.
You are tightening security. Are you sending in more men?
That's the implication. If you are beefing up security, you will be sending more men and logistics so that in the event of an outbreak of violence, they'll be able to contain the situation.
Now, you say the Committee of Eminent Chiefs are intervening in the matter, but what sort of intervention are you looking at, since the ABUDU family last week expressed lack of confidence in them?
Well, it's unfortunate, but I don't know why they don't have the confidence in the three eminent chiefs. They have not yet come out with their findings, and I think it's to be premature for them to conclude that they have no confidence in the eminent chiefs. And that is why I want to use this opportunity to appeal to them to exercise restraint. When they come up with their recommendations and they are dissatisfied with those recommendations, then maybe they can let the public know why they are dissatisfied.
The District Security Coordinating Council met this morning to look at the issue at hand and bid to avert any possible clashes. Dr. SEIDU DANAA is a Minister for Chieftaincy and Traditional Affairs. He says his ministry is working hard to end chieftaincy clashes in Ghana, especially in the north.
The issues involved are two: the issues of chieftaincy and then the issue of security. For us here, the issue of security, the chieftaincy is what is on the table. If it comes to security, all we can do is to collaborate with our security agencies. But for us here is the issue of chieftaincy. And right to the core of that one is also tough. Information, flow of information. It has come to my attention that sometimes, rather unfortunately, I don't know how it happens. Some information gets, wrong information or maybe misrepresented information. And when that happens, it creates problems. So part of our duty is to make sure that we have the right people and who is there to give right information to chiefs. And then also, we are talking about a situation of inflamed tension. It has always been there, but right now it's moved to another dimension with information flow, angry cross passes. So it's a very dicey situation. And I believe after this meeting, there will be another one, discourse between the ministry and the National House of Chiefs, and then we cut a way forward. Then we are now going to wanting the day to meet club apartments so that we lay 11 allies online in stools and skins. And the advantage is that when you have an ally on a stool or a skin, if the chief passes away, then there is less likelihood of violence. Then we are putting in place another batch to start research into another one. People ask me that why do it take such a long time to do it? Yeah, you take a long time because if you rush, you end up creating a new problem. So what is happening in Ashanti and similar things, the cases keep coming, but we are also working hard to reduce them. In fact, if ever you come to the ministry, we will take you through what we are doing. We are reducing the dispute, but more are coming.
Okay.
More people want to be chiefs in Ghana.
We're going to speak with Said, our correspondent from the Ashanti region. Good evening to you, Said. What more can you tell us about this plan to break into the Gbewa Palace to make sure they bury their late chief?
Well, good evening, Aisha. What I can say is that Nigeria has officially not commented on this issue since disagreement between the two factions began.
Right.
But what I'm told is that from sources is that early last month, on the 6th of December, one of the major meetings involving the two factions was held at the Manshia Palace,
Right.
at which the final bits of the roadmap to peace in Dagbon was agreed to. And according to my sources, they had anticipated that by the 5th of next month, that is February, they expect that the process will end with the installation of a new Yana for Dagbon. Because initially they had intended to implement the roadmap right after the meeting. But because the fire festival was up, they decided to hold it on until after the fire festival. So the agreement is that you can describe it as a 4-stage, roadmap. The agreement was that between 8th and 15th January, that is this month, the ABUDUs would have had the access to the KWESI Palace to perform the funeral of the late Yana Muhammadu Abdullahi.
Right.
And then between 15th and 22nd, they would have observed something my sources describe as a rest period. Then after which, that is between 22nd and 29th, the Andanis would take their turn to perform the funeral of the late Yana Yakubu Andani, also at the KWESI Palace.
Right.
So after these processes, the next thing they had anticipated is that Dagbon would have had a new Yana by the 5th of February.
Okay.
So this is what they had intended to do, and everybody had agreed to that. And I'm told that at the meeting, it ended very well. I mean, the atmosphere was very relaxed, and everybody was satisfied. So the recent developments have come as a surprise to the palace and especially the committee of eminent chiefs.
Okay.
And they cannot actually explain how this thing has come about.
So what do they intend to do about this?
Now, for now, what my sources tell me is that, Aisha, there's a likelihood that the two factions will be recalled to the Manshia Palace once again,
right,
to go over this process I've just outlined.
Right.
But I'm unable to tell exactly when, because at the time I spoke to my source, they haven't gotten a clearance from the head of the committee of eminent chiefs, talking about Otunfo Osei.
Well, many thanks to you, SEIDU. Yakubu will be coming back to you in case you lay your fingers on any other information. Let's get on to the other phone line and speak with Dr. KWESI ANING. He's a security expert from the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Good evening to you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Chieftaincy clashes again, and this time round from the two factions, the two most dangerous factions in the north. How long are we going to see this type of clashes?
We are going to see it for a very long time, because I think the state of Ghana has been way too soft and too gentle. If the statement that was released yesterday is correct, then no single group in this country, irrespective of their interest, must send out a statement that seeks to threaten other people, that seeks to create the impression that they can recruit, organize, and attack, that they are daring yet another. That is unacceptable and intolerable. And I think because the state has a softly approach, it unfortunately tends to send a signal that says either we are untouchable or that there are powerful interests supporting a particular group. Let me make this point clear. During intractable conflict,
right,
like the Dagbon conflict, we can bring in all the experts from the outside. The Tufo committee can do well. The Waku committee tried. The U.S., or sent much earlier on, delegations to try to unravel this crisis. it is only by the willingness of the two parties involved that this crisis can be dealt with. It looks to me from where I sit and knowing what I know that both parties are far from leading or looking for an amicable solution. Probably we need to start asking some really very different questions. First, what is dragging this conflict out good for?
Right.
We shouldn't be asking the quiet question. No. What is it good for? That it keeps on creating instability. And who are those? Can we disaggregate? Those who are benefiting from this.
From the conflict.
And can we isolate them and deal with them?
Right.
Otherwise, I'm sorry. You and I will be talking about this until I go on pension, probably in about 5 years.
But this conflict is long overdue. Don't you think that if we identify that is the two factions who are not understanding, maybe we should work more on these two factions rather than putting out recommendations out there?
No, I don't, yes. You see, but I like your phrase, working on the two factions. Which aspects are we going to work on? You see, and that is why we need a careful disaggregation of those who benefit from a deepening and a continuous instability. And we need to be asking very different questions. And if and when the state is able to use its resources, particularly intelligence, to identify those who are meddling, because I've listened to several reports today, and it looks as if there's some surprise among different people and different stakeholders as to what is happening now.
Right.
The question is, who are those who are funding these things?
Yes.
They can be isolated and they must be dealt with. They are lost. You see, because you and I cannot issue statements threatening our neighbor because he or she plays loud music by using the same language.
There are those who feel, Doc, that this is taking a political dimension, and that's why we are not seeing an end to this. Do you see something like this from where you sit?
No. I think that is a very lazy interpretation of the complexity of this.
Right.
Have we ever tend to look at the economic interest? Have we tend to look at the identity issues, the emotional issues?
Right.
I think looking through the political lens is a very lazy approach to understanding what is basically increasingly a criminal enterprise. And I think the state must be bold enough to identify those who are involved and punish them. Because you see, this has started since 2002.
2002, very long time ago.
Yeah, and if you take a long-term historical lens, probably going back to 1969.
Right.
Okay, we've got to find a way of saying, as a state, enough is enough. We live in a terribly dangerous neighborhood, and we cannot afford to have a group of people quarreling, fighting, and placing all of us at risk. Because somebody will exploit the instability and insecurity that arises when this is not dealt with. And I think the state must step up to the plate and give us our piece of.
As it stands now, Doc, the ABUDU family has served notice in indicating that if by tomorrow, Tuesday, January 26th, government and the Committee of Eminent Chiefs mediating the peace process fail to grant them access to the palace, they will forcibly enter the palace. The ANDANI royal family is also saying that, no, we will protect ourselves from any attack from the ABUDU royal family. How bad does this look?
Well, it can't get much worse than this. I mean, what both parties are telling us is that we are willing and prepared to lose lives and to shed blood. You see, and that is why I'm arguing that we need to understand the emotional aspect of this rather difficult. I mean, this must be understood and this must be dealt.
Well, many thanks to you, Dr. KWESI ANING, for your time on today's big story. On the other phone line is Wing Commander Patrick SOGBODJOR, retired. He's also a security analyst. Good evening to you. We're grateful for your time on today's big story.
Good evening to you, too.
We're having another clash in the north, and this time it's the popular ABUDU and the ANDANIs. And you know how serious these two factions can be. And we've had some warnings saying that if the other group tries to bring any such wars, we are ready for them, and they will be sitting on a time bomb. You think all of these are healthy for a country, especially in an election year?
Certainly not. Certainly not. I believe this issue has been dragged on for too long. But if one looks at the eminent chiefs too, they may have a reason to have done it. But since the report wasn't made too public, if you take the youth who are about 12 years old when this thing happened, today are about 25, 26, 27.
That's a long time.
Full of vigor.
Right.
You know, and this thing which had not been settled, if it blows out, will go out of proportion. It will certainly go out of proportion because the older folks don't fight, the youth will fight. So it is time that this chapter was closed. We're all aware of what happened a few years back, 2002, and I believe the mistake which was made at that time was that the culprit or the planners or whatever happened were let scot-free. And there are people who fought in that war and knew exactly what happened. So this main tension or would be looking like all was well was never there.
But
and if they want to now to agitate, it will be chaotic, being an election year, like you said.
Well, Commander, what have we left in the mediation process, the peace mediation process? What have we left behind that we need to bring back so we can get this lasting peace we've all been looking for in the north?
Well, there's a tall order, as one can briefly speak on radio about what is left to be done. Peace must be absolute peace. If we leave any part of peace untouched, as the years go by, it's like igniting a gas fire. It comes back again. And I give an example about 13, 12-year-old kids who are now about 25 or 26, who realize that maybe they lost out either to this wing or that wing, are waiting for something to happen. And I always keep saying that the devil finds hands for the other hand. There are people hanging, and to me it's more dangerous when we're talking about the trying to radicalize youth, you know, and it's not helping in election year. And I also blame the politicians to a certain extent. Every year towards election, people start making noises about what do we do to settle this issue. So this issue, even though it wasn't political to the extent that we are going that way, we have the left and the right. This party promises this, and this one promises this, and it never happens.
But isn't it the reluctant, incooperative, and lackadaisical attitude of these two factions? Isn't it delaying matters?
I think I certainly agree with you. It's part of the problem. It's part of the problem.
Well, so how can we bring lasting peace to the north? Is it a tough task?
No, it's the Northerners themselves to believe that peace works. No one can impose peace on them. No matter if you send 2, 3 brigades of the military to go there, you haven't solved the problem. Even if you go geopolitics, problems are not solved that way. We might get to the depth and come to a situation or a level where both sides, ABUDUs and ANDANIs, agree. Let's live in peace. In fact, I would have thought that for the 13+ years which has gone on, children who are now coming back and their relation, they are playing together, they are schooling together, they are eating from the same plate, would have said, let bygones be bygones.
Right.
But let me give you an example in this country. There are 2 Akan factions here who do not get to each other. Superficially, you may think they are okay, but deep down,
they are
and
not.
what happened between them happened about how many years? Maybe about 500 years ago.
Right.
I don't want to mention him.
Right.
You know, it still exists in this country. So don't let no one deceive the public that, you know, because they are playing together and so forth, wouldn't have been solved. We must go deeper to nip it in the bud. But election year, I don't think it's up. And I also pray the press will stay out and not to hype it up. You know, I thought it's in there somewhere.
Well, many thanks to you, Wing Commander Patrick SOGBODJOR, retired. He's a security analyst. Many thanks for your time on today's Big Story. If you just joined us, we're talking about new clashes. We can say new. We don't know what brought about. We know there's a chieftaincy clash already, but we don't know what really triggered this one. What is happening here? The ANDANI family is saying that we will protect ourselves because the ABUDU family has served notice and says that if by Tuesday, January 26, government and the Committee of Eminent Chiefs mediating the peace process fail to grant them access to the palace, they will forcibly enter that palace. The ANDANI family is saying that no, we will not allow that. And if you want war, we are ready for you. How does all of these look for our country? And you've heard the two security analysts speaking that, especially in an election year, we don't want to entertain this. But what's the most important thing? The two factions themselves must accept within themselves that we want peace. If they do not do so, we can bring in all the security experts, we can think about all the strategies, we'll still go back to square one. This is today's Big Story. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Good evening.